But let's move on. Last week, Cipla was in focus. The Pithampur unit last week received a warning letter from the US FDA highlighting data integrity issues. The stock fell a bit, but then there was buying interest in the stock. A lot of brokerages came out and said that Cipla has seen very strong growth in its fundamentals lately, so they are bullish there, and they're not too concerned about this US FDA, warning letter. Nithya Balasubramanian, the Director Healthcare at Sanford Bernstein, joins us now to discuss what she made of it. Nithya, I think the street used this as a buying opportunity, as a good opportunity to perhaps accumulate more of the stock. Is that the right way to approach it?
That's our view. We think the risk of an import alert, which is what seemed to have concerned investors last week, we think that is insignificant. See, typically when FDA gives a warning letter, the company has 15 days to respond to the warning letter with what they intend to do in terms of corrective action and preventive action. And on receipt of that, FDA typically, again, gives the company time to work on these action plan and then re-invite them back for a re-inspection. And this can take anywhere between 6 months to even a year. Right? Post which, of course, when FDA comes back for re-inspection, it depends on what they see at that point of time. So I think the immediate risk of an import alert is rather low. And you have Cipla's own example, right? If you look at the Goa plant, they had a warning letter. They were able to re-invite the FDA. They got additional 483s and they're working on it and they're going to re-invite them again. So I think the risk that the market seem to be worried about, we don't think exists. And even if you're looking at specific products and the impact, let's say there is an import alert for whatever import alert, and Albuterol and Budesonide are the two products which are supplied from that facility. We know that Albuterol is also supplied by Cipla from the US facility. So even if the worst does happen, they do have an alternate filing.
Nithya, hi, morning. But do you think, looking at the contents of the letter, exhaustive corrective action will need to be taken? So that's the reason perhaps why many are worried that this is going to take longer in terms of resolution. And of course, then the import alert, that's, of course, as you say, it's unlikely according to you at this stage. But your thoughts?
See, in terms of what we saw in the warning letter, there was nothing incremental in terms of the observations, right? So these observations and the 483 form was made public several weeks ago, and we didn't see anything incremental. But what we did take away as incremental from the letter were two things. So one is they did explicitly ask for a CGMP consultant to be hired while Cipla is implementing the corrective action plan. And that is something I think Cipla would have done anyway. But in general, in some of the other warning letters, we have not seen this explicit ask. And the second is they highlighted that there were some repeat observations when they look at the observations they had given for Goa. So the letter seemed to now expect that it's not just indoor facility that Cipla needs to work on. They will have to make some interventions at a management level to make sure that the SOPs and implementation spans across the various facilities supplying to the US. So to that extent, I think there is an incremental expectation from FDA on what Cipla needs to implement here. And what we understand from the management is that for Goa, they are apparently ready in terms of the implementation having been done and therefore ready to invite the FDA back. And they're hoping that'll be in the first quarter of next calendar year. Now, my view is that even when they come for Goa re-inspection, they're likely to want to see a more firm-wide transformation in terms of the SOPs and procedures.
Okay, that's about Cipla, but I wanted to talk about the rest of the industry as well, because there's a big outperformance that the pharma industry has seen this year, right? I mean, the Nifty Pharma Index so far in 2023 is up 27%, while the Nifty itself is up 9%. Do you think that outperformance is something that can continue? And ex of Cipla, which are the other companies that have both, some valuation as well as growth headroom?
See, we think the run-up in the stocks were fully warranted given the kind of softer pricing environment we're seeing in the US. And we have seen substantial gross margin expansion as well, right? I think earnings bet most people's expectations this quarter on the back of, again, softer pricing, API and raw material cost recovering, you had freight cost recovery. So I think all of the reasons are why we saw the run in the sector. As to, I think in the next couple of quarters, it's likely to last because again, YOY things were weak, and on the back of that base, we continue to expect growth. In terms of US generics, sitting here today, I'm not seeing any incremental headwinds, and therefore I don't believe why price erosion should go back to the 15-20% levels. But that being said, competitive intensity still remains high in the US. So any new launches that you see, or again seeing 11 to 15 players participating, which means the 90-95% erosion that we have seen in the past is likely to stay. So companies, again, only with a strong pipeline or differentiated products in the pipeline are likely to do better than the others. So we think at least for the next couple of quarters, we would expect this sort of growth numbers to sustain. In terms of who we like beyond Cipla in the near term, if you're looking at the next couple of quarters, we think there is still room in Aurobindo. Again, very exposed to the US, and therefore the tailwind that we're seeing in the US is likely to support. We like Gland as well, similarly exposed to the US, and in addition, shortages in injectables is likely to last. Right? So the competitor has said that even going into first half of next year, they will struggle to supply. So Gland, therefore, is again likely to benefit given that valuations are reasonable, and of course, we did cover Cipla.
All right. Well, Nithya, appreciate your thoughts. Thanks a lot for joining in. That's the call on the pharmaceutical space.